Foreign nationals get stranded at the Banjul International Airport as the country sought air peace. Nigerian government reduced fuel price as value of oil drops down globally. Charcoal business is heating up in Somalia and authorities are raising up awareness. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, it is 17:06 GMT here in our studios in Banjul. You're watching The World Today on Africa TV and I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. After the death of a foreign national of the coronavirus in the Gambia, the emergency response team of the Health Ministry has given updates on the management of cases in the country. Government has shut all borders, including airspaces, with effect from midnight Monday. Aissatou Tamba has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia have increased the number of people under quarantine of COVID-19, according to the emergency response team of the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. 131 people are being quarantined as of Monday, as opposed to 38 suspected cases in a week before. Gambia confirmed its first COVID-19 case in a traveler from the United Kingdom, the patient who is under treatment at the Medical Research Council. According to the Doctor of Health Education and Promotion, is medically stable.
The Gambia now records 2 confirmed cases. A total of 20 laboratory tests were conducted, and a total of 131 persons have been screened and placed under mandatory quarantine. A total of 310 people have been completed follow-ups and have since reintegrated into society, and they also resume normal duties.
Health Minister Dr. Ahmadu Lamin Samate Sunday evening announced the death of a Bangladesh national who tested positive of the virus. The 70-year-old entered the Gambia through Senegal on March 13 on a religious mission through which he interacted with Islamic scholars, including during a Friday prayer. Having both the first and the second case of the coronavirus in the Gambia been detected through voluntary report of the patient to the hospital, leaves the people wondering as to the level of preparedness on the side of the health sector. However, chairman of the emergency response team argued that there is no perfect health system anywhere in the world.
They said about people jump quarantine, what is happening? Why are we not detecting the case also why is MOH not detecting the cases? As I said, the virus duration is 14 days. That's the incubation period. And then in this 14 days, you can be with me. I may even have the virus. You may not know whether I have the virus or not. I said in one of my interviews that, in fact, this is helping us and also helping the scientists. So that the machines we have to look at the temperature while they're coming and to screen them, perhaps now they will now go back and now think of now, how can we improve on this machine so that they can be able to detect someone who have the virus even day 1.
On Saturday, Gambian government announced the closure of border with Senegal, in addition to shutting off airspace with effect from Monday midnight in a view to contain the spread of the disease.
From that report there on the current situation of COVID-19 in the Gambia, next we head to Ghana, where Ghanaians have begun to adopt new ways of life as preventive measures against the deadly coronavirus pandemic. There are some people still living the same way of lifestyle, but that is not without paying attention to their personal hygiene. The impact is not felt by some Ghanaians, and it may take time before they could adhere to the new measures. For more details of that, we go with this report.
Like a typical Friday where Muslims hold congregation to perform the Jummah prayers, today is different in this mosque. The large gatherings for prayers has been cancelled and only 25 people are allowed to pray here. And also, they keep some distance from each other.
We are obeying the government's directives so that we can prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
Away from the mosque, life hasn't changed so much along the streets of Accra and in the market. It's business as usual. But some say they are paying more attention to personal hygiene.
I wash my hands and also use sanitizers. That's what I can do to prevent the coronavirus.
The government has urged people to practice social distancing in order to curb the spread of COVID-19. But the impact of the pandemic has yet to be felt by some Ghanaians. Here at this lorry station, buses still load 16 passengers and people sit close together. It may take a while for people here to fully react to the global health crisis.
The report in Ghana, we come back home and continue reporting on matters of the coronavirus impact, because foreign nationals are currently stranded at the Banjul International Airport as the Gambia shut airspace over spread of the COVID-19. Commercial flights have since early hours of Monday suspended operations leaving the airspace, with only chartered flight provided for the evacuation of non-Gambians following confirmation of 2 cases in the Gambia. Our correspondent Ibrahim Ba visited the Banjul International Airport to assess the situation on the ground.
I am here at the Banjul International Airport to monitor the situation on the movement of flights in and out of the country. As you know, it is few hours to the cancellation of all flights or the suspension of airspace in the Gambia as decreed by the government of the Gambia. This is due to the coronavirus. So far, 2 cases have been confirmed in the Gambia, the airport being the gateway of both cases. The first case was as a result of a passenger from the United Kingdom, and the second one being a passenger who is a Bangladeshi coming via Senegal to the Banjul International Airport. So this means that the shutting of airport is a key move by the government of President Adama Barrow. So we're here to monitor the situation, and as you can see on the background, airport officials are less busy and it is virtually deserted. The place is less busy, like a normal Monday shouldn't be like this according to airport officials. So what we notice also, there is no commercial flights on the ground. Flights we found on the tarmac today are all chartered flights, which are 3 in number. One has already left, and earlier on, people are expressing concerns of being stranded on the airport. We managed to speak to one of them who also should have gone back to Holland, and this is what they had to say.
We received this morning early an email from the consulate that there was going a plane to Düsseldorf, and we could be on it. That we be here before 8:30, that would be the best, but we live in Katong, so we have more than an hour drive, and I received the mail at 8, so we never could make that time. But nevertheless, we packed really quickly our suitcases, rushed here with our good friend Abdul with the taxi, but sadly the plane is full. But we really hope there's still coming a plane today to come to bring us home, because we are here now almost 4 months. We live in Katong and we really want to see our children, our grandsons and our family. Yes, but we keep up the spirit that we can go home.
So another key aspect of the airport situation we found here is the cancellation of certain flights, which includes a Sky flight. That should have been the one to go to Togo and Johannesburg in South Africa. Because of this, one of the psychologists serving the TRRC, who is recalled by her organization, is stranded in Gambia. So some of these people stranded, including US nationals, are now looking for second options to find their way back to their countries. The closure of airspace in Gambia may be exempted in certain situations, according to anonymous airport source. So this is to also facilitate the movement of more people who are stranded in the Gambia. As we know, more Gambians outside also might want to come back. They are also reportedly stranded in different places. As it stands with the situation of coronavirus, governments are making efforts to evacuate their nationals from various countries. So for these reasons, the closure of airspace anywhere should be in consideration to exemptional cases, such as chartered flights to repatriate foreign nationals from different countries.
That report done there by our senior reporter and correspondent Ibrahim Ba. Of course, with that report there on the situation at the Banjul International Airport, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the rest of the stories.
'Cause 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 'cause
Welcome back. You're watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and now to the remaining of the stories. Now, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has described the coronavirus as a common enemy which the world must jointly fight. He called on parties to different conflict to observe a global ceasefire in recognition of the importance of the fight against COVID-19. This insert featured his message during a press conference at the United Nations House a few minutes ago.
Our world faces a common enemy, COVID-19. The virus does not care about nationality or ethnicity, faction or face. It attacks all relentlessly. Meanwhile, armed conflict rages on around the world. The most vulnerable, women and children, people with disabilities, the marginalized and displaced, pay the highest price. They are also at the highest risk of suffering devastating losses from COVID-19. Let's not forget that in war-ravaged countries, health systems have collapsed. Health professionals, already few in number, have often been targeted. Refugees and others displaced by violent conflict are doubly vulnerable. The fury of the virus illustrates the folly of war. That is why today I am calling for an immediate global ceasefire in all corners of the world. It is time to put armed conflict on lockdown and focus together on the true fight of our lives. To warring parties I say, pull back from hostilities, put aside mistrust and animosity, silence the guns, stop the artillery, end the airstrikes. This is crucial to help create corridors for life-saving aid, to open precious windows for diplomacy, to bring hope to places among the most vulnerable to COVID-19. Let us take inspiration from coalitions and dialogue slowly taking shape among rival parties in some parts to enable joint approaches to COVID-19. But we need much more. End the sickness of war and fight the disease that is ravaging our world. It starts by stopping the fighting everywhere, now. That is what our human family needs, now more than ever.
Some strong message there from the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calling on the world to jointly combat COVID-19. Now to Nigeria, where Nigerians have welcomed the news of the government's reduction of fuel price amid the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Globally, oil prices dropped drastically due to the impact of the coronavirus, and there are concerns of economic recession. Let's have more of that in this report.
For many Nigerians, this is some good news at a time when there isn't much to cheer about the Nigerian economy. With the continued spread of COVID-19, international crude oil prices have slumped to below $30 per barrel. This has triggered fears of a possible economic recession in Nigeria, where earnings from oil exports power the economy. The government has now decided Nigerians should pay less for petrol.
As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, you are all aware that oil prices have drastically dropped. And we know that this really will translate to a lot of sufferings on the part of Nigerians. Therefore, the President has graciously approved that the pump price of petrol should also accordingly drop. So the pump price of petrol will be from now 125 for now. If there is any further drop, it will even drop further.
On the streets, people have welcomed the news. However, not all the filling stations in the country have complied with the new price directive.
So now you can use 1,000 and buy food that can take you to a distance and come back. So it's a good development. We love it so much.
I was happy. I was jumping up, hoping that by now I'll be buying it at a lower rate. But I just bought the fuel now. It's still the same.
You know, the marketers, the problem with them is if the price goes up, they will change it immediately. If it comes down, they will not adjust it. They are telling us that it's a oil price, is that blah blah. So they are not selling like that now.
Nigeria spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year on petrol subsidies. The subsidies estimate for this year is over $2 billion. But the drastic drop in global crude oil prices has literally wiped that off, which is why the government chose to slash the price of petrol at the pump.
This is a golden opportunity for federal government to completely remove fuel subsidy. Nigeria spends over ₦1 trillion annually on fuel subsidy, and I'm not surprised that government is saying it's reducing 2020 budget by approximately 1.5 trillion per day, an amount that is equivalent to what we would have spent on subsidy.
Petrol subsidy is more of a political issue in Nigeria than an economic one. No government has been able to muster the political will to end it. And despite the current price reduction, it's very unlikely this government will go all the way to remove it completely. But while the public enjoys a new price regime, it should be ready for an upward review once the global price of crude begins to go up.
From the report there in Nigeria, finally we report in Somalia on a different matter, because charcoal business has become the order of the day on Somalia, with its demand for household needs growing, resulting to negative effects on the country's forestry. With the alarming rate of the forest destruction, authorities are engaged on raising the level of awareness to the damages and the impact of climate change. The terrorist group against the government, Al-Shabaab, has made millions of dollars out of charcoal business. Let's have more details of that in this report.
One of the biggest charcoal markets in Mogadishu. Huge trucks bring charcoal here every day from regions surrounding the capital to meet the city's increasing demand. One sack of charcoal goes for as much as $10. The charcoal sold at this market is mostly brought from the lower Shabelle region, a rich agricultural area that's considered the breadbasket of the nation.
Majorly it is because of the huge demand locally for the subsistence and household cooking. Over 90% of the Somali households need charcoal for cooking and heating. And secondly, it is because of the availability of the market. Specifically, the Gulf Arab countries are willing and ready to take the charcoal produced and exported from Somalia.
Charcoal smuggled out of the Horn of Africa often fetches at higher prices in Gulf markets. The country recently sought for tougher UN sanctions after it emerged that a ship carrying more than 200,000 bags of charcoal were exported to Iraq from an undisclosed port in southern Somalia. Militant group Al-Shabaab has in the past made millions of dollars from the illegal charcoal trade. Environmentalists are now calling for increased awareness in efforts to combat desertification as the country continues to lose trees at an alarming rate to illicit charcoal trade.
Somalia is yet to be ready to face the challenges of environment. Environment is not number one priority for the government of Somalia and for the federal member states of Somalia. And also the community capabilities and the community attitude is also very low, and the environmental education awareness is also very low. That shows us that in the coming years is going to create massive influx of rural-urban migration.
A cycle of drought, famine and flooding in recent years has increased the country's humanitarian needs. Pastoralists have been forced to move from one region to another as competition over natural resources increases. Millions have also been displaced in the country as a result of climate change.
There is a pressing need to establish the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. There's also need to establish, as you mentioned, key critical policies and legislation and regulations, including the charcoal policy, including environmental management policy, which has been recently passed. But there is also need Environmental Management Act of the bill. There's also need EIA Act, Regional Management Policy, Rangeland Act. All those regulations and acts also need the implementation and the enforcement. And above all, there is also need to change the perceptions and attitudes of the communities. And that is where the gap exists, because unless we change the attitude of the communities into positive, then any blows and any regulations will not take any effective.
Environmentalists have now begun efforts to educate people on the importance of planting trees. The exercise is taking place in schools and universities.
From the report there in Somalia on charcoal business, we will of course finally bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on these stories and others, you can also log on our website on iafrica.tv. Many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Once again, I am Amadou Kante, and bye for now.